Hi, good morning, boys and girls. It's Miss Michelle from Skoblicki Scientists. And we're going to get started this morning with our Discover the Frog Prince program. How's everyone doing out there? Awesome. All right, friends. So we're going to get started today learning all about my friend, the Frog Prince. How many of you out there have ever seen a frog? We're going to be learning all about them this morning. So friends, to start off with, does anyone know, does my friend the frog start out looking this way? How many of you think he does? All right. Does anyone out there think he starts out looking a little different? If you said yes, you're right. We're going to take a look at something called the life cycle of a frog. Boys and girls, can you think of something else in science that also has a life cycle? Do butterflies have a life cycle? They do. Great job. What about plants? Do plants have a life cycle? Excellent. Today we're going to take a look at the life cycle of my friend the frog. Does anyone know what the first stage of the frog's life cycle is? Do you see those? Those are teeny tiny eggs. Can everyone out there show me your eggs? Great job. So this frog starts out his life cycle as a bunch of teeny tiny eggs. They're like little clear balls of jelly. Do you see that? Yeah. These are my model eggs. But if you've ever been walking by the pond or a lake, you might see these little tiny clear balls of jelly. Take a look. And when do you think the frog is going to lay these eggs? Do you think they're going to lay eggs in the wintertime? No, because it would be too cold, right? So usually in the spring or the summer, the frog will lay eggs on the surface of a pond. Now, each of these eggs, like we said, looks like a teeny tiny clear ball of jelly. Can you see that, friends? And there's something inside of there. Can anyone guess what's inside of there? If you said a tadpole, you're right. So what's going to hatch out of our egg is a tadpole. All right. Okay. Boys and girls, can you hold on for one moment? I'm just going to check and I will log right back in. Hold on one second, guys. Hi, boys and girls. Sorry for the interruption. I am back. I just wanted to make sure that everyone could clearly see and hear me out there. All right. I'm having some difficulty seeing some of your messages, but hopefully. All right, friends. So we were talking about our little friend that hatches from that teeny tiny egg, and we said that that was a tadpole. Check him out. So this is my tadpole model, and as you can see, what does he look like? He looks very similar to something you might have at home, right? Does he look like a fish? You got it. All right, so you can see he has a tail that he uses for swimming, and he breathes with something just like a fish. Do you know what a fish uses to breathe in the water? If you said gills, you're right. Take a look. He's got gills like a fish. right? These are called his gills. Now, if I have a tadpole, can I take my tadpole out of the water, put him in my pocket, take him with me? No, I can't. Does anyone know why I need to keep my tadpole in the water? Well, my tadpole uses those gills to get oxygen from the water, and he uses those to breathe. So if I were to take my tadpole out of the water, my tadpole wouldn't be able to breathe. So it's important that we keep that guy in the water to get his air. So let's take a closer look at the tadpoles. All right, so we said here, this guy, everybody say tadpole, right? Can you see that? And those parts on either side of him are called his gills. Friends, do we have gills? No, we don't have gills, but like I said, a fish has gills that it also uses to breathe and get oxygen from the water. So the tadpole spends a lot of his time eating, right, and growing, and you can see he uses his tail to swim. And the first part that he's going to grow as he's developing is these tiny little hind legs. Can you see that? He's got little back legs back there that he uses to swim. And he will hatch, and in about 6 weeks or so, those gills are going to disappear, and he's going to form something else. Do you know what he's going to be developing? He's going to be developing his lungs. Do we have lungs, friends? Yeah, that's right. So just like us, the tadpole is going to develop his lungs, and he's also going to be growing in his front legs as he's growing. All right. Here we go. Here's a good close look at the tadpole. As you can see, he has a big wide mouth, right? And do you know what tadpoles like to eat? Well, they'll eat algae and plants and tiny insects when they're little. And for my tadpoles, I even feed them boiled lettuce. They like to eat that as well. And they spend a lot of time just eating and growing until they get big enough to form the next stage, right? So after we have that little tadpole that I showed you, do you know what he's going to turn into next, friends? He's going to turn into something we call a froglet. Can you guys say froglet? Excellent. All right, so if you look at the froglet, what's different? Do you notice that his tail is shrinking, right? So the tail of the tadpole is getting smaller. And how many legs do we see here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So he has both his hind and his front legs, and he's starting to look like a frog, right? And those gills have disappeared, and now he's grown his lungs. Excellent, he's got lungs. So that means he no longer has to stay completely under the water to breathe. He can come up to the surface, and he's able to breathe with his lungs like us. And then finally, that tiny tail is going to disappear completely. And what do you think he's going to grow into, friends? A full-grown adult frog. Here he is. Now, in science, guys, do you know what family a frog belongs to? I know we said that the butterfly belongs to the science family called insect, right? And do you know what we are? If you said mammal, you got it. We're a mammal. Does anyone know what science family the frog belongs to? He's a big science word. He's called an amphibian. Can you clap that with me? Amphibian. That's right. The frog belongs to the family called amphibian, right? And do you remember, do you think that the frog, is he warm or cold-blooded? Who knows? If you said a frog is cold-blooded, give yourself a pat on the back, thumbs up. Frogs are cold-blooded. Can you say that with me? Cold-blooded. Do you know what that means when an animal is cold-blooded? Well, cold-blooded means that his body temperature changes with the temperature around him, right? So his body temperature changes with his surroundings. So as the temperature goes up, friends, where does his body temperature go? It goes up. And as the temperature goes down, his body temperature goes down. All right? So we're going to take a look at some froggy facts next to learn a little bit more about these guys. But before we move on to frogs, I'd like to show you some live tadpole friends. Give me a thumbs up if you'd like to see some live tadpoles. Okay, so I'm gonna hold them over here for you. As you can see, they are swimming around in my tank. Can you see them? I have two in here, and they're swimming pretty quickly. Do you see that? They're moving their tails to swim. They have a really wide mouth in the front, and these guys have been enjoying a lot of algae and plants, and they're completely relying on their gills to breathe. Can you see them? Yeah, so these guys actually do not have any legs yet. They don't have their front or rear legs yet. So they're pretty young. And the type of tadpoles that these are, guys, these are called Bullfrog Tadpoles. Yeah? And I have to keep these guys in a special pond water. I wouldn't just want to take a regular bottle of drinking water and pour it into their tank. They need to have the same water that they're used to, which is from their pond habitat, and that's what they're swimming around in right now. All right, so let's take a look at some froggy facts. All right. So boys and girls, we talked about frogs, and we said that frogs belong to the science family called, who remembers? Shout it out if you know it. Amphibians. Great job. Are we amphibians, boys and girls? No. Does anyone remember what we are in science? We are mammals. Very good. We are mammals. But frogs belong to the family of amphibians, right? And what are some of the characteristics that we said about a frog? We said, are they warm or cold-blooded? Who remembers? Cold-blooded. Excellent job. So let's take a look at where these guys like to live. Do you know what we call that in science? All right. In science, we say that these guys like to live in a certain habitat, right? Let's take a look. So frogs can live all over the world, boys and girls, but there's one place that a frog doesn't like to live. Can you guess where that might be? If you said Antarctica, you're right. Antarctica is way too cold for our froggy friends, right? So because they're cold-blooded, they would not like that type of climate. What type of habitat do you think a frog might like to live in? If you said a wet place, thumbs up, you're right. They like to live in rivers, lakes, and ponds. All right. So they can also live in trees and in the desert. Wherever they live, that is their habitat. Now, how do you think that frogs can communicate with each other? How do they communicate? Have you ever been sleeping at night and heard frogs croaking outside, or been on vacation and heard them croaking? Well, frogs can communicate with each other by croaking. I have a little friend here. He's called the Coqui Frog, and he makes a special sound to communicate. Can you guys listen really closely? And that's how they talk to each other. They each have a special sound that they use to communicate. Now, what do you think my froggy friends like to eat? Anybody have any idea? Can I share my slice of pizza with him? No, he's not going to like that. If you said insects, you got it. These guys love to eat bugs. They like to eat dragonflies and crickets and mosquitoes. Here's a picture of one guy eating a big juicy dragonfly. Yep. And some will even eat mice, or some bullfrogs will even eat other frogs. Now, how do they catch their food, friends? How do frogs catch their food? Can you show me your tongue? Stick out your tongue out there. That's right. Frogs shoot their tongue to catch their food. Now, you guys, reach down and feel your belly buttons for me. Their tongue can reach from their mouth way down to their belly button, and they shoot their tongue super fast, and they draw the insect into their mouth. Here's a photo showing you of a frog shooting his tongue to catch that insect. Amazing. Look at that. And he quickly pulls it into his mouth. Now, frogs can come in different sizes and colors. Can you guys find your fingernail for me? Tap your fingernail. You see that? The size of your fingernail? There's a tiny little frog that's about the size of your fingernail. And that guy is called the micro frog. Take a look. He's super tiny. He just fits on the top of your fingernail. And then we have a super big frog. And that guy is called the Goliath Frog. Do you want to see what this guy looks like? Check him out. He's enormous. That's the Goliath Frog. Now, we said frogs can be different colors too. Now, I know you've probably seen some frogs in green or brown, but they can also be red or bright blue. They can have spots or stripes. And do you know what these colorful frogs do? What do these colors mean on these frogs, friends? Well, if you've ever been to an aquarium or something, and you may have seen these frogs called poison dart frogs, right? Their bright colors on their skin warn predators to stay away because they have poison in their skin. And those have very bright colors, right? Now, some of you have asked me, what is the difference between a frog and a toad? So we're going to do a little challenge right now to see if you guys know the difference. Are you ready to play frog versus toad? Okay. My first question is, one of them has a very smooth skin. One of them has a very smooth skin, and one of them has a very dry and bumpy skin. Friends, which one do you think has the smooth skin? If you think it's a frog, give me a thumbs up. Anybody think it's the toad? The answer is the frog has a smooth, moist skin, while a toad has the dry and bumpy skin. Great job. All right, question number 2. One of those, the frog or toad, has very strong legs that they use to hop, and one of those has very short legs that they use for walking across the ground. Do you think that the frog has the strong legs for hopping? Give me a thumbs up if you do. The answer is the frog does have those big strong legs it uses to hop and leap, while the toad has the shorter legs it uses to walk across the ground. Now finally, one of these has teeth. Everyone show me your teeth. Does the frog or the toad have teeth? Let's see if you know the answer to this one. How many of you think the frog is the one with teeth? If your thumb is up, give yourself a pat on the back. You got it. Frogs actually have teeth in their upper jaw. So they've got teeth in their upper jaw, where the toad actually does not have any teeth. So I hope you did a great job on our frog versus toad challenge today. And here's just the photo right here. So here's the frog with the smooth, moist skin, the strong legs he uses for hopping, and his teeth in his upper jaw. So if you've spotted this guy, you've spotted a frog. And he likes to live near the water. Now, if you've seen this guy, you found yourself a toad. This guy has the dry and bumpy skin, short little legs that he uses for walking on the land, and no teeth. So if you've spotted this guy, you've spotted a toad. Friends, I have a live friend that I'm going to show you today. And I want you to see if you can use what we learned about to tell me, is it a frog or a toad I'm showing you? Are you ready, friends? Here we go. He's hiding right up here. He's hiding right up here. Can you see him? He has very smooth skin. He's got long hopping legs. And he has a big bowl of water in his tank. Do you think that he is a frog or a toad? If you said a frog, you're right. He's actually a tree frog, friends. And do you think he needs to drink water like we do? He does need water, but he doesn't drink it through his mouth. Do you know where he drinks it through? He drinks it through his skin. That's right. Frogs drink water through their skin. So when they take a bath in their water bowl, they're absorbing the water into their skin to keep them healthy. Especially in the summertime, we don't want our froggy friends to dry out. So that's why they always need to be near a water source. I hope you had some fun meeting my tadpole friends. Remember, those are called Bullfrog Tadpoles, and my tree frog. Now, at the end of every class, of every science program, I always like to show you a fun craft that you guys can do at home. How many of you like to make crafts at home? Well, I have a really simple one for you guys to remember the frog's life cycle. Can you guys say life cycle? Life cycle, right? And can anyone remind me of the 4 stages of the frog's life cycle? Let's say it together. First, we have the eggs. There they are. And then what hatches? Then we have the tadpole swimming. And the tadpole turns into a froglet. And the froglet turns into a big, full-grown adult frog. There he is. So all you're going to need is you're going to need a paper plate, okay, just like this. And you're just going to need to label each part of your plate, okay? You're going to need to start with the eggs, and you can draw your label, or you can print out some little stickers here. And then you're going to have your tadpoles on your paper plate next. Down here, you're going to have your froglet, and then your frog. And you're just going to draw in those pictures, or you can use your computer to print out some of those stickers, all right, that you can add onto your froggy life cycle. And I hope you guys will try that at home, and you'll have a really cool frog life cycle that you can look at to remember all of the stages. And that big fancy word in science where the frog goes through all of his changes is called, does anyone know? It's called a big word, metamorphosis. Can you clap that with me, friends? Metamorphosis. All right? So I hope you enjoyed meeting my froggy friends today, and I'm so proud of you guys for joining me to learn at home. So until our next science program, friends, keep learning and keep smiling, and I'll see you soon. Great job, everybody.